Okay, so you want to buy a seaport, find a stretch of coastline, build a few berths, buy some cranes, let the ships dock, collect the fees. 90% of everything you own, your phone, your shoes, the chair you're sitting on, arrived by sea. Every container that crosses an ocean has to touch land somewhere, and whoever owns that piece of land gets paid. It sounds like the airport business, except bigger, older, and quieter. That is the dream, and it is not entirely wrong. The problem, as always, is what happens between the dream and the reality. What it costs to get in. What it costs to keep the water deep enough. What happens when a single ship gets stuck sideways in a canal 5,000 kilometers away and your entire schedule collapses. And why some of the most sophisticated investors on Earth have handed over billion-dollar ports for pennies, sometimes to the very lenders who finance them. Let's start with the first question. Who actually sells seaports? For most of history, nobody did. Ports were state property, run by harbour authorities, staffed by dock workers with jobs for life. Then, in the 1980s and 1990s, the same wave of privatisation that swept through airports hit the waterfront. Governments realised they were sitting on choke points, physical gateways that global trade could not route around, and private operators realised that a well-placed container terminal was a machine for converting geography into cash flow for the next half-century. Today, the dominant model is the concession. The government keeps the land and the water. A private operator, companies like DP World from Dubai, PSA from Singapore, Hutchison from Hong Kong, or APM Terminals, the port arm of the Maersk shipping empire, takes over a terminal for 25, 50, sometimes 99 years, invests in cranes and yards, and pays the state rent plus a share of revenue. A handful of these global operators now handle a substantial share of every container moved on the planet. They do not own the coastline, they own the right to charge everyone who uses it. And what do they charge? Every container lifted off a ship generates a terminal handling fee, typically somewhere between $100 and $300 per box, depending on the port. A single large container ship can carry over 20,000 boxes. Do the arithmetic and one ship call is worth millions. Add storage fees for every day a container sits in the yard, berth fees for the ship itself, fees for pilotage, for tugboats, for reefer plugs keeping frozen cargo frozen. The meter never stops. Now, what if you cannot buy in? What if you want to build? The first thing you need is not land, it is water, deep water. The largest container ship sits 16 meters below the surface when loaded. Most natural harbours are nowhere near that deep, which means dredging, floating factories that vacuum millions of cubic meters of seabed and keep vacuuming forever because the sea puts the sand back. Major channel deepening projects routinely cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and maintenance dredging is a permanent line item that never goes away. The ocean does not care about your business plan. Then come the cranes. A single ship-to-shore gantry crane, the giant steel giraffes that define a port's skyline, cost between $10 and $15 million, and a serious terminal needs a dozen or more. They arrive fully assembled on specialised heavy-lift vessels, sailing across oceans like pieces of a kit. Behind them, the yard, kilometres of reinforced concrete strong enough to hold containers stacked 6 high, automated stacking cranes, truck gates, rail connections, custom facilities, power substations. A single new deep water terminal, built from nothing, costs $1 to $2 billion before the first box is lifted. And just like airports, the debt starts working against you on day one. You pay interest from the moment the loan lands, not the moment the first ship does. Every month of delay, every environmental challenge, every dredging permit, every crane stuck in transit is a month of paying millions for a facility that earns nothing. Which brings us to the most famous cautionary tale in the entire industry, Hambantota, on the southern coast of Sri Lanka. In the 2000s, the Sri Lankan government decided to build a brand new deep water port in the president's home district, financed with over $1 billion in loans from Chinese state banks. The location looked brilliant on a map, just 10 nautical miles from one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. Tens of thousands of ships pass by every year. They kept passing by. Ships do not stop because a port is nearby. They stop because cargo needs to get on or off. And Hambantota had almost no cargo behind it. No industrial hinterland, no major population centre, no reason to call. In its early years, the port handled a trickle of vessels while the debt payments came due relentlessly. By 2017, the government could no longer carry the burden. The solution was painful and permanent. Sri Lanka handed the port to China Merchants Port Holdings on a 99-year lease in exchange for roughly $1.1 billion. Essentially, the port traded away for a century to cover the cost of building it. The lesson is identical to the ghost airports of Spain. Proximity to traffic is not demand. Nobody asked the shipping lines first, and shipping lines are very good at knowing where cargo actually wants to go. Now look at the opposite story in the eastern Mediterranean. Piraeus, the port of Athens, was a tired, underinvested state facility when Greece, deep in its debt crisis, leased its container terminals to the Chinese shipping giant COSCO. What followed was one of the fastest transformations in port history. Throughput multiplied several times over within a decade, and Piraeus climbed from irrelevance to become one of the largest container ports in the Mediterranean, a transshipment hub where cargo from Asia is redistributed across Europe. Same sea, same era, same source of capital as Hambantota. The difference was that Piraeus sat exactly where the cargo already wanted to be. Then there are the years nobody predicted. In 2020, when airports went silent, ports briefly stumbled, and then something strange happened. Locked down consumers stopped buying services and started buying things, and every one of those things came in a container. By 2021, the system was drowning in its own success. At one point, over 100 ships sat anchored off Los Angeles and Long Beach, waiting days or weeks for a berth. Freight rates for a single container from Asia to America, normally around $2,000, spiked above $15,000. Terminal operators and shipping lines posted the largest profits in their history. The airport's nightmare year was the Seaport's golden one, a reminder that these two pieces of infrastructure, so similar on paper, live in different economic weather. But do not mistake that for safety. A port's fixed costs are just as merciless. The dredging continues whether ships come or not. The cranes must be maintained, the channel lit, the tugs crewed around the clock. And unlike an airport, a port usually has competitors, another harbour 200 kilometres up the coast, hungry for your shipping lines. The monopoly is weaker, the moat is geography, rail connections and depth, and all three can be matched by a rival with enough concrete and patience. So if you do decide to buy a seaport, understand what you are actually buying. Not cranes, not concrete, not even water. You are buying a position in the invisible circulatory system of the global economy. A toll gate on the movement of physical things. In the right location, with real cargo behind it, that position can outlast governments, currencies, and every company whose boxes cross your docks. In the wrong location, it is $1 billion monument waiting for ships that will never come. And the sea, patient and indifferent, slowly filling your channel back in.